Welcome back to another edition of Grizzlies Daily. I'm your host Malik, and let's just jump straight into it, man. We got some pretty exciting news, pretty exciting rumors for Grizzlies fans today. Bleacher Report and multiple sources say the Grizzlies could be the Grizzlies are listed as a dream option potentially for Jaylen Brown. Now, what that means is that doesn't mean that Jaylen Brown says that the Grizzlies are an option for him, but just a potential suitor for him. So yeah, the Bleacher Report article says that basically Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis are a big name thrown around, but the Grizzlies could be a team that could make a move for one of the younger assets that the Boston Celtics have. I mean, I talked about this multiple times that Boston will have to blow it up. Boston will likely have to blow their team up due to the new CBA. So, the Bleacher Report article by Greg Schwartz of Bleacher Report says Celtic star Jaylen Brown is a dream trade target for the Grizzlies. He is likely to he's going to make a high amount of money with no question. He has one of the highest salaries in the league right now. But in order for a deal like that to be made, obviously, more than likely a guy like Desmond Bane will probably get traded. Which I got to be honest, I have my skepticism, Jaylen Brown, but I think if it comes down to it, and like I said, love everyone that's on the Grizzlies, including Desmond Bane. But I think if there was somebody that if I'm being honest, somebody that straight up could be traded that you could trade Desmond Bane for, Jaylen Brown is a guy. I mean, we're talking about a Finals MVP, talking about a guy with crazy athleticism, great shot, pretty good ball handling, and he's a pretty good defender. Only thing that scares me with Jaylen Brown, and I know we joke about it a lot, but it genuinely is a concern, is his carelessness sometimes and his inability with his left hand. That does kind of bring me into question, but I don't think that poses that big of an issue. I mean, he won a championship. As big of an issue that it is, he won a championship and he won a Finals MVP. So, left hand or not, he's definitely somebody that the Grizzlies should be considering targeting. I mean, we heard from Shams, like I mentioned in the previous episode. This is bound to be the craziest offseason that we've ever seen. That's according to Shams. And Shams is going to be the guy that everybody turns their post notifications for on Twitter. So I would take what he says seriously if I'm listening. So I would say the Grizzlies, they have to make a move. It's just that simple. They have to make a move, and if they're gonna make a move, we gotta hope that it's a star, and hopefully that star, gets some depth around them. So this is gonna be something that I'm following. Right now, obviously, there's no real news saying that Jaylen Brown is being shopped around or even being considered being moved. So it'll be something that we follow, but just thought that article was interesting and made its ways around the Grizzlies media. So thought I'd bring that to you guys and definitely throw that out there so the way if it does happen, you all won't be thrown off by it. So yeah, Jaylen Brown to the Grizzlies could potentially happen. Just a matter of how the Grizzlies handle it and if they actually make a move for it. But from one star to another one, let's talk about Giannis real quick. If we're being real, no real news right now. Just kind of following up on that whole thing. Um, there's nothing confirmed that says that Giannis is even requesting a trade or pursuing a trade, but the Grizzlies still are listed as a potential suitor to trade for Giannis. So no real news when it comes to that, but just another star out there that the Grizzlies could pursue that I think will obviously help the team greatly. Now, like I said, I don't know who you would give up for Giannis, but I would say if Giannis tells the Bucks front office, "I want to be traded to Memphis," then you need to be able to figure out a deal then and there. Just know, make sure obviously get your untouchables out the way. I mean, if you ask me, it's five, six untouchables on that team. To me personally, Ja, Jaren, Scottie Pippen Jr., Zach Edey, Jalen Wells, and Gigi. To me, those are the untouchables. So anybody else up for grabs, and that's including Desmond Bane. I think out of that entire trio, Desmond Bane is probably the one that would out of Ja, Jaren, and Bane will probably be the one that gets moved before anybody. So that's just something that I would say if you're making a deal with Milwaukee, I would consider moving. If you're making a deal with anybody, I would consider moving Bane before Jaren or Ja. They seem to mesh well and show up when it's needed most. Desmond kind of has his struggles every now and then, so I would say he probably is the one that we look to and be like, okay, he's possibly getting moved. So that's when it comes to that. Like I said, no real news when it comes to the Giannis rumors. Just kind of following up on that, just so it's not dead in the water, because nothing is dead in the water right now. Literally nothing. Grizzlies could possibly make a move with Kevin Durant. We have no idea. So yeah, nothing's dead in the water right now. But something that I found interesting, and I found this by reading one of my guys' articles. Parrish, shout out Parrish Sharkey. I hope I just pronounced his last name right. But yeah, shout out to my guy Parrish. He posted an article saying that the Grizzlies should be in the market for PJ Washington, and this comes after the Mavericks getting the first overall pick, and without a doubt, unless something crazy happens out of this world, the Mavericks are going to take Cooper Flag. If they don't take Cooper Flag, I have no idea who they're taking place of him, but 100% the Dallas Mavericks are going to take Cooper Flag. So with that in mind, obviously you have a roster of Kyrie, Anthony Davis, Cooper Flag, and others. They kind of puts PJ Washington's role into question. As you know, PJ Washington played a pivotal role in the Mavericks making the finals back and making the finals last year. So no question on what his role would be once Cooper Flag comes in, because it's no secret that the Mavericks are going to build around Cooper Flag. That's no secret at all. So I would say the Grizzlies entertaining a trade for PJ Washington is a good idea. I know I say that every trade is a good entertainment for the Grizzlies, but when it comes to depth, when it comes to adding depth to the team, PJ Washington is the guy that you want. He's played the role of enforcer and stood on it well in the playoffs. He has the tendency to play good when you need it, get you a three every now and then. Play some very good defense. Actually, that's one thing that's underrated about PJ Washington's game. He's a pretty good defender, and I think he's someone that when Dallas had a high pace, fast break offense, he found his way down the floor. So that's something that is worth noting with PJ Washington, especially with the Grizzlies being a high paced team. So I think PJ Washington would be a good guy to go after for the Mavericks. Now his contract, he is in the last year of his contract, so obviously you might have to restructure a deal. So that's would um something that would be worth noting. And another reason that my guy Parrish said for targeting PJ Washington would be, obviously, PJ Washington would want a starting role, and he deserves a starting role. He's a starter. To me, PJ Washington is a starter on about 25 to 30 out of 30 teams in the NBA. That's just keeping it real. So I would say, I mean, it's a great reason, and I think it's very very good for the Grizzlies to target someone of his caliber, 6'7". So you could even move on. In my opinion, you could really, if you want. I know that Brandon Clark is a guy that is trying. Well, he's Brandon Clark is a guy that's dealt with a bunch of injuries. He's around the similar size as PJ Washington. So I would say, if it comes down to it, I would consider trading Brandon Clark for PJ Washington, because at least Brandon Clark, he's used to coming off the bench. He's someone, if you ask me, I think this comes out to a win-win trade for both teams. Now, obviously, Brandon Clark, he gives you more energy when it comes to rebounds and defense, but I think with the defense that the Grizzlies already have, and like Jalen Wells and whoever they could bring in the all season, I think you can definitely make up for that. Because one thing about it, Brandon Clark's energy definitely propelled the team. So as long as you can replace that, I think you're in a very good position. Now, with that in mind, I've seen this debate come up so many times in Grizzlies Twitter, and I feel the need to talk about it because I've been too silent on it. But basically, there's this belief that fans. There's this belief between fans that John and Jaren just need to split up or something. Mostly because people are either tired of John or they're either tired of Jaren. Jaren, obviously, a lot of people call out his rebounding. I've called it out, but I haven't said, hey, maybe it's time to move on with Jaren, and then Ja, obviously his availability. Um, I'm just going to say it straight how it is. Both of those two are not getting traded anywhere. And I do think if with the right pieces, Ja and Jaren can win a championship together. Now, the only thing that's going to help them is a matter of Ja being. I'm going to start with Ja Morant. Ja needs to play the at least the minimum threshold of games. That's no secret. Ja Morant has had multiple seasons where he's missed at least 20 plus games. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. Especially he doesn't make any All NBA teams. Doesn't qualify for any postseason awards. So that's something that Ja Morant just needs to be available, and that's really what it is. Now, something that I noticed with Ja that I wish he would take away from other players in the league, a guy like Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is a phenomenal player. Phenomenal player. But one thing about him, Anthony Edwards went from a guy that you'd have to worry about in the paint when he's slashing to a guy that you have to guard on all parts of the court. Anthony Edwards is a lethal shooter, literally. So I think if Ja Morant develops a 3-point shot, we're looking at a completely different player. We're looking at a player that is more threatening than Ja Morant that we've ever seen. More threatening than a 2022 Ja Morant. An MVP caliber type player. So I think if he develops a 3-point shot, it doesn't have to be like a crazy 3-point shot. But if he develops to at least a 37 to 40% 3-point shooter, then we're talking about a completely different player, and we're talking about a player that could really help the Grizzlies going forward. Because Ja Morant with a shot, a consistent shot at that, really spaces the floor out for the Grizzlies even more, and it gives other guys a chance to really do things in other areas. Also gives a chance to call more plays, build more sets around him. So that's something that I would say Ja Morant needs to work on the most is availability and developing the shot, whether it's the 3-pointer or the mid range. I don't really care. Just work on both of them. Now when it comes to Jaren, obviously the rebounds, that's a big thing. Now I have my theme pieces on Jaren. I think a lot of things, and y'all have heard me talk about it. Jaren, yes, the rebounds obviously is a big target with him, but I think more than anything, Jaren needs to figure out how to work the post. Now, Jaren, obviously, first half of the year, Jaren, great post player. But one thing that I noticed about Jaren, he will hold on to the ball way too much when he's in the post, and that causes double teams, that causes turnovers. It allows the help defend. It gives the help defender time to pick him up, and that's what really caused a bunch of the turnovers for the Grizzlies. That and just not knowing how to kick the ball out. So I think if Jaren works on that along with things like rebounding, then we're looking at a player that could make that All NBA team that we could have had this year. Now another thing with Jaren that I say he definitely needs to work on, obviously the fouling. Jaren needs to develop a mindset of not every shot is going to get blocked. Now, it's a great mentality to have, playing defense, but we're living in times where fouls that aren't fouls are called, and Jaren just falls victim to it. Another problem that I see Jaren have is he has a hard time keeping his hands to himself. A lot of his fouls just simply come from hitting guys' arm or them simply noticing his arm is close to them or his hand is close to them, and they just go for a shot, easy foul call. It's just silly fouls like that hurt the team, and we're seeing it happen with players. I mean, you look at a guy like on the Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns, great player, great energy for the team, great shooting for the team, but it's been multiple cases especially with how the Knicks are down 3-1 with the Pacers. His foul trouble hurts the team. I mean, it almost hurt them against the Celtics. I mean, there was multiple times where Cat would have 5 fouls, and if you look at the fouls, they were, pretty dumb fouls. And it's just like, I saw a lot of Jaren Jackson in there, and I'm like, okay, Jaren needs to learn from this that, hey, maybe, I will always appreciate the energy from Jaren, but some of these fouls that he gets, you just got to look and be like, all right, you didn't have to do that. Love the energy, but you didn't have to do all of that. So I think as long as those things work, those two can pair well together. And obviously, I think them having a third star with the team really helps them out. Another reliable scorer, another reliable ball handler. I think that really helps the team out. So I would say this all season, the Grizzlies should definitely target someone like that, and obviously a veteran center and veterans that can come off the bench and provide good energy and pace for the team. Helping them keeping their head in the game, and basically, essentially, when in a moment where if the stars aren't going, let's go to the bench. That's really what the Grizzlies need. Just a moment where they can say, let's go to the bench. We couldn't really say that this year, especially down the stretch. We couldn't really say that this year. Once the bench came in, it's like, all right, man, we really hope we keep this lead, and we wouldn't keep it. So that's just something that I really, wish this all season. And like I said, obviously for Grizzlies Twitter, stop putting these two people against each other. Please stop. I think people need to understand. It's been years since we've had a tandem that really meshes well together. Let's not pit them against each other. Players see these tweets. They see these tweets and they take note of it. That's why a lot of players, we saw a lot of players this all season just simply shy away from social media or just straight up deactivate their accounts. So I think people need to realize that these players see these tweets. Stop trying to pit them together and instead support them. I get people had to think pieces on players, but it's too early to just give up on them. It's been a minute since the Grizzlies have had a championship window. So as a lifelong Memphian, I'm telling y'all right now, appreciate it while it's here. Literally, just appreciate it while it's here. We'll figure out everything later. That's for the team to figure out. We can have our think pieces, but at the end of the day, just appreciate it. So that's going to wrap up this edition of Grizzlies Daily. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Obviously, if you have your opinions, make sure to leave them in the comments below. I'll take a look at them and try my best to respond to them. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to turn on post notifications so that way you can see when we post and, be on the first lookout to see the latest Grizzlies news and rumors. So until then, y'all stay blessed, and I'll see you on the next one.